Sports Scene, Hampton Road's premier interview show with Greg Bicouvaris, each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11.
And you look at that, 4-4 at home, which is just average, 4-3-1 on the road. I mean, you're not going to win any games like that. They were not the same team after they beat the Packers, yet the Packers were a totally different team.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic and listen weekly as Greg interviews distinguished guests with excellent commentary and insight. Sports Scene, Saturdays at 10 a.m. on the Lighthouse 100.1 FM.
Mark your calendar for May 31st to June 3rd as Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Enjoy authentic Greek food, desserts, beverages, music, dancing, arts and crafts, and much more. This is the signature cultural and food event on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org.
Opa! From Chesapeake, Virginia, the Lighthouse 100.1 presents Sports Scene. Sports Scene features local, regional, and nationally acclaimed guests and excellent interviews. Follow Sports Scene on Twitter @GregBic. Now here is Greg Bicouvaris.
Sports Scene, midweek online, Saturday on the radio from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on 100.1 FM, The Lighthouse, 1010 a.m. TuneIn.com, type in WPMH in the search bar. Greg Bicouvaris along with Joe Daniel. Again, it was an honor and privilege to throw out the first pitch of the Norfolk Tides game on April 30th. You should be able to watch that very soon. Sports Scene is an interview show, and also watch sports highlights on nnpstv.com. Tell your friends about gjbtv.com and click the YouTube link on the homepage for archived audio and video. Twitter @GregBic, and you can see the rest of my Twitter handles on gjbtv.com in the contact section. Thank you to our military guest lineup presented by Outback Steakhouse in Kempsville. Sponsors on gjbtv.com, Hampton Roads Online Mall.com, and hrsmhof.com. Phone line presented by the Newport News Greek Festival. Show presented by hrsmhof.com with the big ceremony coming up May the 12th. NBA playoffs are heating up. Major League Baseball, Tides, summer is right around the corner. Great interviews, business segments, highlights, commentary, what teased me off. Thank you for making the habit to listen to Sports Scene weekly, and we love our regulars, newcomers, and tourists. Stay tuned.
Hey, Jessica, I haven't seen you in a while. Wow, you look fabulous.
Thanks.
Okay, I gotta know, what is your secret?
Well, you're not gonna believe this. It's not one of those $100 creams or lotions either.
Do tell.
I'll let you in on a little secret. It's the Ultimate HA formula from Purity Products.
Really?
It combines hyaluronic acid and collagen in a capsule.
In a capsule?
Yeah, it hydrates my skin, and women love that. And get this, it also cushions my joints.
Wow.
So, Ultimate HA is great for beautiful skin and healthy, flexible joints.
Huh.
You know, guys love it too, especially when they hit 50. Give it a try.
I bet it cost a fortune.
No, it doesn't. You can get a free bottle of Ultimate HA today.
Wait, did you say free?
Give them a call. That's what I did.
For your free bottle of Ultimate HA capsules, just pay for shipping and call now. 1-800-360-8715. 1-800-360-8715. Call now. 1-800-360-8715.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome back to Sports Scene right here every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 on 100.1 FM, 1010 AM, tunein.com, type in WPMH on the search bar. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us, with a longtime radio and TV host who had his roots here in Hampton Roads, now with TV in Baltimore. Let's welcome back a regular, Bruce Cunningham. How are you, Bruce?
Hey, Greg, am I a regular now? Wow.
Yeah, you're on a lot. You're on quite frequently, you know. So plus,
I tell you what, I love to talk to the folks at home. Whenever I get a chance, I'll jump at it. You know. I
appreciate it. And plus, we always see you in the fall during Ravens games too. Well, let's pick up with the Ravens and the draft. Your thoughts about the draft overall?
I tell you what, it's a phrase that you usually read and don't hear, but for Ozzie Newsome, the retiring GM, it was a tour de force. I mean, he makes 3 trades in the first round alone and ends up with the best tight end in the draft, who he sorely needed, and then ends up with the quarterback of the future. People here are pretty happy. And then in the third round, they got the offensive tackle from Oklahoma, Orlando Brown Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his father, who was known as Zeus, was a longtime Raven and much beloved around here, died very young. And something feels kind of right about the Ravens drafting Orlando Brown Jr.,
Right. I mean, of course, the Ravens always seem to have a pretty good draft. And, of course, what are your thoughts mixing the draft in with RG3, a recycled RG3?
That's the big question. And when I did my radio show on Saturday, that was the first thing I threw out there. What happens to him now? It's fallen out of favor for NFL teams to carry 3 quarterbacks. But it doesn't mean they won't do it. The Ravens last carried 3, I believe, in 2009. If Jackson just really tears it up, then maybe they could look at just carrying him and Flacco. But right now, I think it's going to be the 3 of them. And I'll tell you what RG3 and Jackson do. They make preseason games a lot more interesting, Mm-hmm. There's a reason to watch the second half of a preseason game now to see which one of these guys is pulling ahead.
Right, and RG3 is still very young. Of course, when he was in Washington, he was very fragile. And, of course, a lot of that happened, as you know, Bruce, against the Ravens. That's where it all started.
Yeah, I think Haloti Nada got him. I think it was one of the final things Haloti did as a Raven. But, I could see them signing him at the time. They signed him for the veteran minimum, so they have very little money invested in him. And at the time, they needed a backup quarterback. I don't know. I don't know if it's a situation where RG3 can play his way onto the roster or if that's predetermined. They've got to be thinking right now, what are we going to do about these 3 quarterbacks? And it's going to be interesting as the summer unfolds to see how they work that out. You obviously don't want to play the rookie very much if you don't have to, But then again, do you want to burn a roster spot on a 3rd quarterback? See, I'm glad I don't have to make that call because that's a difficult call. Roster spots are precious. And if you're going to burn one on a 3rd quarterback who you're not going to use at all, you might have to think that one over,
Well, the biggest awkward thing for me is Flacco. I mean, he really hasn't had any competition since he's been there over 10 years, won a Super Bowl, has had, of course, his coach there, Harbaugh, nobody looking over his shoulder. Now does he have to? And here's the thing, Bruce, he's not that old.
He's 33. He's getting ready to start his 11th season. He signed a massive contract after the Super Bowl. The Ravens get out from under the bulk of that contract this season. At the end of this season, then his contract gets very, very manageable for them. So there's a lot of people that are looking to the future on this one, and it's pretty much laid at the feet of Lamar Jackson. It depends on how he plays. I could see Flacco leaving after this season, maybe even retiring. He made $128 million. His wife just had their 5th child. He may not want to play anymore. We'll see. Tell you what, this whole thing could really propel him into a career season. I mean, you light a fire on him. Joe, you've been around Joe a little bit. Mm-hmm. Joe is, to use another print word that you don't hear much, he's very laconic, He doesn't have a whole lot to say. He's very easygoing. Cool Joe, a lot of people call him that. Maybe he needs a fire lit under his butt. It might be fun to watch.
Yeah, really, because most of the fire has been around him was, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed for all those years, and now pretty much he's looked to as the leader as well as Suggs. What's Suggs' status?
Suggs insists he's just going to play indefinitely. And he's pretty much the last link to those glory years, that great defense. Ray Lewis is going into the Hall of Fame this year. Ed Reed will next year. Most people think Suggs is. That was 3 Hall of Famers on one defense. Suggs is healthy. He had a great year last year. And there's no reason to believe he can't keep playing indefinitely. Unless a serious injury comes. But you got to remember, he was barely 20 when the Ravens drafted him. Mm-hmm. So he's 35, 36 now. He's still got some football left in him.
Right, but that body's had a lot of miles with the postseason and preseason and injuries and having to carry on the extra weight and just do more, proactive.
Well, you know what? He lost a lot of weight last year. He came in very, very good shape and had a really, really solid year. So it kind of upped people's hopes for him. A lot of people were looking for him to retire before last year, and I think he felt like he had something to prove. And frankly, I think he wants to nail down that Hall of Fame spot. I think he's very serious about that. So he keeps playing and get the numbers up, and then, hello Cam.
Let's talk about the schedule. It came out, the network television schedule. Not a whole lot of national TV games for the Ravens. They've got a few, but what are your thoughts from a TV standpoint about their schedule?
Well, I don't think that this is a national team right now. I don't see that people in Idaho would be particularly interested in Baltimore Ravens. Those primetime games, you've got to have attractive matchups, and they don't really have a lot of attractive matchups. As far as the schedule goes, it's pretty good. I mean, there's not a whole lot to complain about. I look at two things when the schedule comes out. I look at the bye week, when it's going to be, and then I look at how many trips they have to the West Coast, because people have no idea how tough it is to lift up an entire organization, take it across the continent, and expect to win the game.
Sure.
It's very, very difficult. So, bye week in this schedule, week 11, which is pretty much perfectly positioned, if you want my opinion. Week 11, you can't beat that. And then one West Coast trip. They're going out to L.A. to play the Chargers Christmas week. Mm-hmm. I'll take that schedule all day long. Mm-hmm. But then again, you're playing in the AFC North, so you're going to be facing 6 really tough games right off the bat before you even get outside your division. So it's not a bad schedule. I've seen them get a lot worse. Plus, we have a home opener, which is important. You like to open at home and not on the road. So that being said, I think it's very, very fair, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah, the AFC North is always tough, and you got to figure Cincinnati and Cleveland both will be better this year.
Well, Cleveland, it would seem like they'd almost have to be, but they did some curious things in the draft. Like, they have the number 1 overall pick, and the best player in the draft, everyone agrees, is Barkley. So why aren't you taking Barkley with the number 1 overall pick and then get your quarterback with the number 4 that you had? I don't know. There's a part of me that still thinks that no matter what happens, no matter who's in place, no matter who's calling the shots, no matter who's in uniform, they're just always going to be the Browns,
Yeah, definitely. Now, one issue that Harbaugh was not happy with last year, even though they did not make the postseason, was the attendance. You're there front and center for all 8 games and the 2 preseason games. Was that an issue once November and December got there?
Yeah, they're very concerned about that. And, they examined various reasons for it, but the fact is it was the kneeling, It just really turned people off. And you put people in position of having to decide between their team and the flag, because that's what it came down to. And it was a very, very, very unfortunate deal. They're hoping that the off-season sort of rekindles everything, but we're not used to seeing empty seats in Baltimore. We saw a lot of them last year.
Right, and of course the weather never helps either in November and December. September and October.
You know what? Normally that's not going to keep a crowd down in November and December. They'll come out and freeze. I mean, that's part of the fun, isn't it?
Right, but they weren't winning as much as they have as well, so you got to figure that didn't help either.
But they've been in that position before, and the seats have always been full. Seriously, I think this was 100% political. I really do.
We live in an age now, Bruce, where people under 40 are getting most of their information over their phone, just like we are as well. But it's a different time now with getting scores and getting updates. You remember back in the day, you'd have to go back and watch headline news or something. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, you had to watch the sports guy on your local news.
Yeah, I know it. Not exactly right.
That's 41 years of my life, and it's changing every day. The ground is changing right under my feet, and I just struggle to keep up with everything.
You're exactly right. Talking to Bruce Cunningham, we'll get his information, how you can connect with him as well. Greg Bicouvaris, glad you're with us, at Greg Bick on Twitter. All right, let's switch gears. We're in the spring here. Let's just take it for what it is. After 28 games, the Orioles are 8-20. I've been a friend of yours. I've known you since 2003, and let me just ask you this, because I know in the past, last year in 2017, you say, the Orioles are off to a good start on their Facebook page. Bruce, when you're 8-20 after 28 games and you see the attendance already before May 1st, I mean, realistically, do they have a shot to get past the Yankees or the Red Sox or even a wild card? I mean, it's sad to talk about that in May.
I know it is, but that's life in the AL East, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Orioles, the first thing you got to take into consideration when you look at the 8-20 is look at their schedule in April. They played Houston. They played the Yankees. They played Boston. They played Cleveland. They played every good team in the American League. And in Boston's case, they played them twice, 2 different series. So you figure they're going to come out of the month of April looking pretty bad, win-loss-wise. You got to think it's going to get a little better. They're starting a West Coast trip tonight to the Anaheim and then Oakland. And I think that might be a better barometer than what we saw in April. I don't know that any team wouldn't struggle with what they were looking at schedule-wise in April. It was just brutal, So all you can hope for is they get better. Now, they could have traded Manny Machado and gotten max value. They could have traded Jonathan Scope and got max value. They have a lot of people that other teams covet. What they decided to do was make one more run at it this year. And they signed Alex Cobb, the pitcher. They signed Andrew Kashner. So they got their rotation worked out, and they thought, okay, we'll go with this veteran club one more time and see what happens. Nobody expected this. But all you can do is just see what happens in May, see what happens in June, see if they can inch closer to 500. A friend of mine who's very wise told me, he said, you know what, you can't win a pennant in April, but you can darn sure lose one. And that's pretty profound, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but when you have every game on Masson for the most part, and then you look at the attendance, that doesn't exactly breed somebody saying, I want to go to that park, even though that park is still very, very new for the most part. It just, empty seats are cardinal sin in television.
They are, and it's a problem here. It's a problem. We talked about it with the Ravens a couple minutes ago,
sure.
And the Orioles' attendance is very low. There are a lot of theories in town. We had the riots back in 2015. A lot of people would suggest that people are afraid to come downtown. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not sure I know what the reason is. And even more importantly, I'm not sure the Orioles know what the reason is. And that's pretty frightening. They're doing a lot of things like, One directive they've started, which I think is such a great idea, a paying adult can get 2 children 9 and under into the game for free. It's called Kids Cheer 2. And I just love that idea. It fills seats, but they haven't been filling many seats up to now, and it's depressing. You look at it as a Baltimorean, a proud Baltimorean, and you think we can do better than this, but they're not. They're just not. As the weather gets warmer, as school lets out, let's see what happens to the attendance. They had 28,000 Sunday, which was kind of encouraging for them. So we'll see where it goes as the summer goes on.
81 games, let's take it's a lot to fill, a lot of night games. A lot of the older fans do not like night games. They prefer those Sunday day games, which are ideal for family, like you said. But when you get off to that start, the Yankees and Red Sox, they're not going anywhere. And either is Houston, and you look at the Orioles, one other team that's...
Don't leave out Cleveland, Greg. Don't leave out Cleveland.
No.
Fine ball club.
No, and of course, Kansas City made the World Series a few years ago. Look at them. Only they can off to such a bad start like the Orioles are. But this has to be scratching Buck's head. He's been a manager for so many different teams over the years. He knows what's going on. You can look on his face and his body language. He's not happy at all.
No, he's miserable because they expected this to be much better than it is. And the hallmark of Buck's teams is great defense. He's a stickler for that. Manny Machado insisted on moving to shortstop, so they put Tim Beckham over at third, where he's lost, and so the defense has fallen way off. The Orioles are actually making errors, and they're losing games because of errors, and we've never seen that before. Buck's contract's up at the end of this season, and most people expect him to be back. But if I was him, I'd give it some pretty good long thought, because who knows what this roster is going to look like next year, or even more the year after that.
He almost has a look on his face like he doesn't even want to come back sometimes. But
I don't know. He doesn't talk about it, but, body language and facial expression, they really don't lie,
Let me ask you, you said defense, but the Orioles for decades, McGregor, Palmer, Messina, what's happened to the pitching? You talk about Gausman and Tillman, but what is the state of the Orioles pitching, and why is that always an issue? And here we are talking about it in May already.
Well, you know what? The rotation right now has 2 number 1 picks that are starting to pitch pretty well, and that's Dylan Bundy and Kevin Gausman. So there's a lot of hope there. They've also got a number 1 who's at Double-A Bowie right now, Hunter Harvey, and you guys will probably be seeing him there in Norfolk before long. He was a number 1, I think, in 2013, and had the Tommy John and everything. But they signed him when he was 18, so he's still very, very young. So he's another hope for the future. If he gets to the majors and pitches well, then you got 3 spots in your rotation looking pretty good, and more importantly, under your control contractually for several more years, and that's what you aim for. So when they rebuild this club, and I don't know if it's going to be next year or the year after that, they're going to rebuild around guys like that. They have some young talent, Chance Sisco, who you guys saw in Norfolk, looking better every day. Mancini, who you saw in Norfolk, looking better every day. So they have some pieces they can build around, but it's tough to rebuild in the American League East. And that's the thing about Baltimore, In baseball, you're American League East. In football, NFC or AFC North, you never get a break. Those are 2 of the toughest divisions I can imagine, and we happen to be sitting in both of them. 81
games at home, 81 on the road. That is a grind. And you got to wonder, Bruce, do you think that will ever change? They talk about baseball, they're trying to speed the game up. It really hasn't. Yeah. It hasn't really improved that much. But do you think they'll ever go below 162?
It would be a tough sell for the owners.
Yeah.
You're taking dates away from them, and, they make money when the lights come on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't ever see it shortening. I really don't. They would like to play the World Series earlier, but I don't see how you do it because you've expanded the playoffs. The season is just I think it's going to stay where it is.
Yeah.
And the other problem when you're trying to make change in baseball are the traditionalists. Mm-hmm. The traditionalists in baseball have an almost obscene amount of power. Any kind of meaningful change you want to make, they're obstructed. And the NFL is under fire for its rule changes and things like that, but at least they're proactive. Baseball just kind of sits there. I'll tell you one change they can make right now that would help an awful lot. When they brought in replay, I said, "Oh no, it's going to make the game slower," but it really hasn't. I don't see that replay has been a big hindrance. But here's where they're blowing replay. In the NFL and the NHL, after a call is made, the referee will explain it. That part is missing in baseball. They just say either safe or out, The umpire needs to explain to the fans and to the TV audience. It adds some drama. I think that's a change they can make immediately, and it'd be a change for the better.
All right, we take a short break, come back with Bruce Cunningham, talk about Lefty Drizel, Maryland athletics, and get his social media contacts. Stay tuned.
Mark your calendar for May 31st to June 3rd as Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Enjoy authentic Greek food, desserts, beverages, music, dancing, arts and crafts, and much more. This is the signature cultural and food event on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org.
Opa! There's no doubt about it. There's no better feeling than being able to make someone's dream come true. Project 143 gives orphans the opportunity to leave their orphanage and visit an American host family. That could be your family. Each child's story and picture and more about hosting over Christmas or for a few weeks during the summer is available online at p143.org. There are 143 million orphans worldwide who need you. Consider hosting an orphan for a few weeks this year with Project 143. Find out more at p143.org.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
All right, back with Bruce Cunningham. Bruce, we live in the social media world. Tell people how they can connect and hear your radio and talk about your TV as well.
I'm at Bruce45 Sports on Twitter, at Bruce45 Sports. FoxBaltimore.com is the TV's website where you can see some stuff of mine. And then on the radio, it's CBSBaltimore.com, I believe. But it's WJZ-FM 105.7, The Fan, it's called. I do a 3-hour show on Saturdays.
Speaking of which, July is going to be an interesting time in Baltimore and Washington both. As you know, I stage manage a lot for Fox. They have one game in July, on your network in Baltimore. The Nationals have one game in July on Fox, and the All-Star game is there. So I know it's not in Baltimore, but still, the fact that it's in the DMV is still pretty nice.
Yeah, but, it's the one thing you got to understand about Baltimore.
Sure.
People here could care less about Washington,
Right.
The only thing that crosses over is the Caps. There's a lot of Caps fans in Baltimore. No Wizards fans. Everybody hates the Redskins. Everybody ignores the Nationals. It's just that way here. And the funny thing about it is it's not reciprocated. Washington doesn't care about us one way or the other, but there's a very deep hatred for Washington here, and it's weird. It's hard to figure out. It is going to be kind of fun having the All-Star game that close, though. I covered one here in '93, and it's special. It's just a lot of fun to see all that talent in one place. So if you're working that game, you're going to have a ball.
Oh, yeah, but I have to agree to disagree with you on one thing, Bruce. A lot of Washingtonians liked the Orioles before the Nationals ever existed.
Well, yeah, that's out of necessity. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, and there's still a lot of Oriole fans in Washington.
And there's not a hatred, though. When you go to an Orioles-Nationals game, they play a lot. You'll see one sitting right next to the other, but the Ravens...
No, there's none of that.
Yeah, the Ravens and Redskins.
They'd like for it to be a rivalry, but it just isn't,
Right. No, I mean, because they had nothing to root for but the Orioles, and some of the Washingtonians still do root for the Orioles. So,
there's still a lot of Oriole fans down there. And the interesting thing is, before the Nationals, the Orioles always got the home opener in case the president wanted to come.
Sure.
So we could always count on that every year. And that was one of the things that really, hammered it home when the Nationals arrived, is we're not guaranteed a home opener anymore. So, that was kind of different. But, the Nationals, I find them interesting because, Lerner is the richest owner in baseball. He's got a lot of money, and he's put together a really fine team. Isn't it about time to actually win something?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I tell you, look at the body language of their manager. He looks lost. I mean...
Well, yeah. See, that was such a choke move to fire Dusty Baker.
Yes.
Because when Dusty Baker was hired, he was given marching orders. Number one, get control of that clubhouse, because it was crazy back then. And number two, get our young superstar in line. He did both of those things. And what does he get? He gets fired. Somebody's going to have to explain that to me, because I just don't get it.
No, I totally agree. And the Nationals manager might be over his head. They're off to a bad start, not as bad as the Orioles are, but they're not drawing like they used to. And this guy does not have the edge that Dusty Baker, one of the all-time great Dodgers players, has as well. One thing, though, I will say this about the Washingtonians and people in Maryland: they both root for the Terps and they both root for the Caps. Yeah. That is a fact. Yeah. That is a fact. That is a total fact. They I've got family members in White Marsh that love the Caps, so I do know that for a fact. All right, your
Caps
thought?
Are really, really big here.
Yes,
and, it's funny, and I just can't figure out why the Wizards aren't. But it's just the Caps. It's strange.
Right. I mean, I think some people past Laurel are, but the Wizards did have some roots in Baltimore. All right, your thoughts on Lefty Driesell? It's funny. People say, Greg, what is your connection up there? Well, I went to George Mason. I got family in White Marsh. Lefty Driesell grew up here in Norfolk, still lives in Virginia Beach, but he coached at Maryland. So regardless, all the DMV is happy Lefty finally got in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, way, way, way overdue. And the problem with Lefty is ever since the Len Bias tragedy, I thought he was kind of scapegoated there. And I thought he paid for that really the rest of his career, and I thought it delayed his entry into the Hall of Fame. His successor, Gary Williams, was in the Hall of Fame for years before Lefty's finally getting in. Somebody needs to explain that to me.
Right.
Lefty put Maryland basketball on the map. Bud Milliken was a great coach for them in the 50s and the early 60s, but the things didn't start happening around Maryland until Lefty got here. And He's still finally remembered by just about everybody in the state. And the thing I'm happiest about is that he got in the Hall of Fame while he was still among us. There's nothing more gutless to me than a posthumous Hall of Fame. That's just gutless. Why not let him enjoy it while he's still on the earth? So good for Lefty.
Plus, he coached at James Madison and Davidson and, and Georgia State, too. He coached well into his 70s. He sustained all these years. And let's not forget, he did win an NIT championship when the NIT was still relevant.
He did. In fact, he got an NCAA rule changed. Back in the day, you had to win your conference to get into the NCAA tournament. And in the early 70s, you remember that great team they had with Elmore and McMillan and John Lucas? That team was 27-1. The only team the game it lost was the ACC championship game, and they did not go to the NCAA tournament. And the rule was changed right after that. They started taking at-large teams and stuff like that. So that's pretty impactful. You can't really ignore that. The other side about Lefty, though, there's so many great stories. I think my favorite was in the early 80s. They were trying to get a third referee approved. They use 3 now. But before they made that change, it was pretty controversial. And they asked Lefty what he thought about that. And he said he was against it. And they said, why? And he said, it's hard enough to beat Dean Smith when it's 7-on-5. Now, you telling me I got to go 8-on-5?
Oh, goodness. That is something. Lefty was the greatest. I'll never forget, we all have Lefty's story. Of course, I loved watching his teams in the late 70s and 80s as a kid. But I finished George Mason in 89. And my first game at the Patriot Center back then was George Mason in Maryland. And then, of course, George Mason in Georgetown back then. And then I got my first credential from Jack Zane, who was the SID at Maryland, for the Maryland Northeastern game. And then he let me go into the locker room. I said, Coach, you got George Mason won. He says, yeah, who do they beat? And it was almost like you look at that year, that final year, 85-86, he had, not only did he have bias, but Reggie Lewis played in that arena at Coalfield House when he played for Northeastern, when Jim Calhoun was coaching. And it was just, and then, of course, Harrington was his top assistant in the 70s for Maryland. Lefty just brought a lot of charisma to that whole DMV area.
He did put him right on the map, I'm telling you. And it took a while for him to get his due, but he's finally starting to get it, and I think it's long overdue.
Yep.
I'm a big lefty guy.
All the best to you, my friend. We will talk to you again. Enjoy the summer, and give us play Nostradamus for a second. In the month June 1st, how will the Orioles be by June 1st?
I think they'll be a lot closer to 500 than they are now.
Very good.
Simply because of the schedule. Anybody listening to this, pull out the Orioles schedule, look at April, and then look at May and June. I think things are going to settle down, and I think they're going to be more competitive.
Very good. All the best, my friend. Enjoy the spring, and we will talk to you very soon.
All right, man.
Thank you. All right, Bruce Cunningham right there, a longtime TV and radio host in Baltimore, had a lot of Hampton Roads roots. Stay tuned.
We're here early before they wake up. We stay late. We stay informed. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
We do this not because it's our job, but because this is about our veterans' lives. This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Are you searching for a genuine connection with God and others? Then join Virginia Beach United Methodist this week for worship, life groups, holy yoga, or one of the many other activities we offer every week in a warm and friendly environment. We are located at 212 19th Street in Virginia Beach with modern services at 9:30 a.m. and traditional services at 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. For more information, please visit our website at vbumc.org or call 757-428-7727.
You are listening to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris. Now, back to Greg. It's now time for Greg's Highlights, presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
All right, highlights, gjbtv.com. Click the YouTube link for archive shows. Sports Scene is online on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Saturday morning on the radio. Norfolk and Newport News Greek Festival coming up. Question of the day presented by Buffalo Wild Wings in Newport News. Joe Daniel. Do you trust easily, and would you ever give a key to your house to anyone besides a family member on either your side or your wife's side?
I think I do trust pretty easily. Maybe it's a flaw, or maybe it's a good thing, but I think I do trust a little bit more. I know I have to with like babysitters. I have 2 kids of my own, so you kind of have to give a key to the babysitter so that way they're able to get inside the house, or a garage door opener. But since I also worked in the service industry in a restoration company, I've been in many, many homes. And so a lot of people would leave lock boxes out or just leave the key under a mat. And so I'm sympathetic to that. So like whenever there's a service person, I'm very liberal in me handing out keys and making sure that they know where it is. So I think I do trust people pretty easily.
Very nice. Buffalo Wild Wings, lunch, dinner, appetizers, excellent salad, boneless traditional wings, burgers. Go by and see Paul and the wonderful staff. Get some great dessert. Watch all the games on TV with your friends. Wings, Beer, Sports. Give them a call at 249-3999. Right next to Patrick Henry Mall in Newport News. Buffalo Wild Wings. Excellent place for food and fun.
Mark your calendar for May 31st to June 3rd as Saints Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church in Newport News presents the Newport News Greek Festival. Enjoy authentic Greek food, desserts, beverages, music, dancing, arts and crafts, and much more. This is the signature cultural and food event on the peninsula. Located at 60 Traverse Road off exit 258B on Route 17 in Newport News. For more, log on to newportnewsgreekfestival.org.
Opa! Jim Daly, president and CEO of Focus on the Family, is an accomplished author, and we have some of his work in the Shop with Praise bookstore. Titles such as Refocus, Finding Home, Marriage Done Right, and The Good Dad. None of these books are over $5 and would be a great addition to any library. Call us at the station at 488-1010 for details on how to get these great values. That's 488-1010 and shop with praise.
Interact with Sports Scene on Twitter at Greg Bick. Email bicogb@hotmail.com. Now back to Greg Bicouvaris in the Hampton Roads OnlineMall.com studios.
A big part of the summer is Langley Speedway, but they start in the spring. Tell us more about it is Mr. Curtis Hughes from Langley Speedway. Curtis, how are you?
Pretty good, and you, sir?
Very good, very good. Let's talk about what's coming up in the month of May.
All right. Well, this weekend we got a pretty good lineup going on. The late models return to Larry King Law's Langley Speedway for the first time after the Denny Hamlin Short Track Showdown. They open up this weekend with twin 75-lap races. Been plenty of excitement in that division all year. We'll come back on May 12th with some modified racing. Modified racing is really close so far in the division. Sean Belusa is still dominating it, but the competition's getting better. And all of our support divisions have been really exciting as well. The Grand Stocks, who are racing this weekend, have put on great shows. And the Super Streets, man, I don't think I've seen nearly as much beating and banging in the division as I have seen in those two races this year.
Right, of course, May 12th, we have the Hampton Roads Sports Media Hall of Fame. We're really excited about that going on that night.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge part of Langley Speedway. We're really excited to be able to be involved with that. Sports media is a huge thing in Hampton Roads, especially us being a sports venue. It's really cool to be able to help give back to the people who make us the stars that we are, in a sense.
Very good. And the weather's been pretty good. Let's knock on wood. Let's hope for some good weather. You're as only good as the weather is, right, Curtis?
Yes, sir. The weather does play a big role in our business here. But, you know, you got to roll with the punches sometimes, and it really kind of turns you into a weather forecaster a lot when you end up working at a racetrack.
Let's talk about what else goes on besides Saturdays. Saturdays are your main day, but sometimes you have, Wacky Wednesdays?
Yes, sir. Actually, Wacky Wednesdays are starting up this Wednesday. It is a oval drag racing type event where you can bring your street car out to Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, bring $15 and a helmet, and you can come out here and you can race as much as you want. Pretty much how it goes is you come out, you learn the racetrack, and then later on in the evening you get paired up with somebody else, and you all go out and see who's faster.
Very nice, very nice. Let's talk about social media. That's your expertise. Of course, you have a nice website. Talk about Twitter and Facebook.
You know, our Facebook presence has been really big. We've had a lot of support through people who care about the racing community. There's multiple pages out there that show how much we mean to the city and the different areas, and so see the support that we get through social media on Facebook is really kind of neat to see that interaction with our fans. Twitter is really neat for us because we're able to really kind of keep our fans updated with what's going on more so throughout the day. We're getting better at that this year with posting times and results and just kind of letting people know who might not be able to be at the racetrack at that moment what's really going on.
Well, let's talk about the prices and the start times for Saturday night normally.
So our normal ticket prices are $12 for adults, $10 for military and senior, $5 for children 6 to 12, and then everyone younger than that's free. And then times for us are 7 o'clock is when we do our national anthem, invocation, prayer, all that stuff. So we really do, we really stick to our times as well. But 7 o'clock is when the show gets rolling. And it's, you know, we usually start off with the support divisions and stuff. So it's always a good time.
Final thing, you mentioned May 12th, the day we're doing the Hall of Fame. How many races are in the modified? How many races will the fans see that night?
So we'll run twin modifieds that night. That means they'll run twice for 30 laps. You'll see a Super Street 40-lap race, a Pro 6 30-lap race, a U-Car Division 25-lap race, a Pro Wing Champ Kart race for 20 laps, and the fan favorite Enduros will run in that evening for a 30-lap race.
Mm-hmm. How much of a break is it in between races?
You're looking anywhere between probably about 5 to 7 minutes.
Very nice, very nice. All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much, and leave us with your website once again.
All right, if y'all have any questions, y'all can always go to our website at www.langley-speedway.com. That's where you'll find all your information. You can purchase tickets ahead of time.
Curtis, thank you so much, my friend. Give my best to Chuck.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, Curtis right there from Langley Speedway. I want to thank our good friends at Sakura Japanese Restaurant. Go by and see Jasmine and the wonderful staff. Excellent sushi bar, takeout, and dine-in. We deliver through orderup.com, Walmart Way Crossing, 1437 Sam's Drive in Chesapeake. Give them a call at 410-4577. Stay tuned.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Are you ready? Ready for spiritual inventory? Ready to strengthen your grip on the gospel? Ready to articulate your faith with clarity that in Jesus Christ alone exists the power of salvation? May I suggest a tool? Dr. Robert Jeffress has written a book for the defense of your faith entitled Not All Roads Lead to Heaven. It's in the Shop with Praise bookstore now, so come on in and pick up your copy for just $5 or call 488-1010. That's the Shop with Praise bookstore at 488-1010.
Catch up on archived editions of Sports Scene by going to gjbtv.com and clicking the YouTube image on the homepage. Now back to Sports Scene with Greg Bicouvaris.
And welcome back to Sports Scene right here. Our good friends at Craft 1706 Mediterranean Avenue in Virginia Beach. Go by and see Jamie and the wonderful staff for some great appetizers, Wagyu burgers, excellent toppings, Carolina snap dogs, chicken sandwiches, salads, vegan burgers, house-cut fries, beer-battered onion rings. They're called Craft 17, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Like them on Facebook. Get a delicious meal, kick back with your friends. Near the ocean front at Craft Burger Bar, 1706 Mediterranean Avenue in Virginia Beach. Let's welcome back our monthly regular guest, George McClain, owner, general manager, firearms instructor for the Marksman and Newport News. How are you, George?
I'm doing well, Greg. How are you today?
Very good, my friend. Every time you and I talk, there's something in the news. Most recently was the Waffle House shooting, and I want to talk about that to start off with because there's Waffle Houses everywhere in the country. Whether somebody wants to dine at 1 o'clock in the morning or 1 in the afternoon, they should not have to look over their shoulder while they're eating a meal.
Well, that's very true, but as we've all come to understand here in the last few years, it's just good practice to be aware of your surroundings, and now to come to expect the unexpected and prepare for that. Hope you never have to encounter it, but be prepared.
Right. That's why I don't understand why sometimes you see around the country that police officers are refused to be served because they're carrying guns, whether they could go to a movie theater, off duty or whatever. I mean, if you have a right to hold a gun, shouldn't you be allowed to enter any building if it's a legal thing?
Well, you would think, but people aren't raised today the way we were raised. When I grew up, you got the liberal media, out there that's hammering that guns are what's causing all the problems, all the deaths, and a gun has never by itself caused any harm to anybody. It's the person behind it. The same thing if you took a bow and arrow. Same thing if you took an ice pick. I mean, people have been killed with those. It's not the instrument; it's the individual that is the cause here.
Right. No hammer is going to kill anybody unless you pick it up and use it to kill someone. You're exactly right.
Exactly right.
Talking to George McClain, owner and general manager, firearms instructor for the Marksman. And, of course, like you've always said, be diligent no matter where you go. Now the weather is warmer. And do you think one of the biggest issues in the country, though, George, is if we had 50 states having the same laws as far as guns and safety and the right to carry and age, would that be easier, or do you think each state should have their own rules?
Well, I think some uniformity certainly goes a long way of benefiting, most of us that would travel from one state, to another. I teach in our concealed classes that you really have to do your due diligence, when you're going to be traveling across state lines, because you can get yourself in some very serious, trouble that would have a jail sentence attached to that, where that same action would be perfectly legal in a different state. So that type of thing, I think we need to have some kind of action to do away with. So I know there's been several attempts over the years to have some type of a uniform concealed carry firearms law. I don't think it's ever going to happen. States tend to develop their own personalities, and it's just hard to dictate. And even now, you find states like California, Oregon are not don't want to adhere to federal law. So if in the feds, they're the ones that's going to come out and say, okay, we're going to enact this law that affects all 50 states, gives you a national right to carry. I can guarantee you there's going to be a few states out west that's going to say, no, we're not going to abide by that.
Very nice. Talking to George McClain, owner, general manager of the firearms instructor. Each state's different, but as the weather gets warmer, does that cause any different concerns, let's say, compared to the winter where more people are indoors? There's a lot more people outdoors now, whether at the beach, at the park, playing basketball, whatever.
Well, anytime you have more people, that you increase the odds of something happening. I think the bigger point that maybe needs to be brought up, that if you are properly licensed, I use that term licensed, that's a federal term, but in the state it's a permit, so we'll say permitted to carry concealed. And in Virginia you can open carry, but that today causes a lot of unnecessary 911 calls anytime someone sees someone carrying an open firearm. So my advice is to get your concealed permit and carry concealed. So now you're into warmer weather, we're dressing lighter. How are you going to conceal that firearm? That becomes more of a challenge when you don't have heavy overcoats or this type of thing that you can put the firearm in. So you kind of have to take a look at your lifestyle and what you're going to be doing, type of firearm that you're carrying, the size of it, as to how you're going to conceal it. And if you conceal a firearm that takes you 10 minutes to get to, you've accomplished nothing. You put yourself in what I like to call a false sense of security. You're armed, but if you need to get to it quickly and you can't, you've accomplished nothing.
Yeah, like the kid at the Waffle House. I mean, he challenged a guy with a dangerous human being with a gun, basically with his bare hands. I mean, that's not something without any police officer, but I guess he did take his life and others into his own action. That is not easy either.
Well, it's not, and some of us, if you're not carrying all the time, if you're not prepared 100% of the time with a, some type of a, firearm or personal defense, weapon of some type, there are those of us out there that when you see something like this, it's a life and death situation. Even though you may not have equal firepower or equal weaponry to defend yourself or others, there's going to be people that step up and put their lives on the line to take somebody down, to minimize that risk of danger to others. And thank God we have people like that out there.
Yes, being proactive. Talking to George McClain, owner, general manager, firearms instructor from the Marksman, 520 Industrial Park Drive in Newport News. Folks, give them a call at 872-4130. For the month of May, still Military Mondays, First Responder Fridays, correct?
Absolutely, all year long.
Yep. Well, tell us about what people will see when they're greeted, when they first walk in the front door. Family owned and operated for the most part, excellent staff, and part of their excellence in training is being prepared themselves as far as the knowledge of guns, classes, safety, ammunition, and what goes on in the showroom as well, and the range.
Right. Well, as soon as you walk in the door, and we like, we've got signs on the door, like to get the word out to everyone. You don't walk into the door with a firearm in your hand. We don't know at that point whether you're the good guy that's just coming in and you want to use the reins, or you're a bad guy that's coming in wanting to hold the place up. And on top of that, not everyone that walks in the doors is highly trained as we would like them to be, and they miss the point of keeping that finger off the trigger until you're sighted on the target, which in this case would be on the range, and you're ready to fire. We don't want accidents happening, and accidents happening typically because of some negligent action. And walking in the door with a firearm in your hand, with your finger on the trigger, with a loaded firearm, that's just asking for something to happen. So we want everyone to be cognizant of the fact that safety is our top priority for everybody. And so once you adhere to that, you're coming in, you're going to see basically two sides in the lobby. Retail's on the left. The range line is on the right. You just simply, our employees should greet you as soon as you walk in. and ask you if you're wanting to use the range, and kind of lay out, show you where the waiver forms are, and get you taken care of. We're going to take a look at your ammo, make sure it complies with our requirements on the range, and type, size of the firearm. You can't shoot just anything that you carry in there. It's basically a handgun range, so we allow handguns up to the 45 caliber, and certain long guns if we have the frangible ammo for those long guns. So we're going to check and make sure that you've got the right firearm and the right ammunition.
I remember when I was a Boy Scout, they told us a long time ago, never point a gun, whether it's a squirt gun, a BB gun, a rifle, a .22, whatever, never point a gun. And a lot of those times, George, accidents happen with police officers when they see a criminal or a suspect or whatever, an object carrying some type of cell phone and pointing it at the officer. They don't know. They can't tell whether that's a phone, a gun, or a book. They don't know. It's a weapon in their opinion.
Well, that's exactly right, and sometimes that gets taken to the extreme. Usually they're going to shout out, drop it, put it down, some kind of a command, and if they're still unable to ascertain the type of whatever is in their hand, and if it's motions that would indicate someone preparing to use a firearm, then they're liable to make the news headlines because someone's going to get shot, and then they find out that they were going through gun motions but didn't have a firearm. They had a cell phone, or they had a water squirt gun, or something along those lines, and that's just idiotic. Someone to do something like that. Now, there's a difference if you're 3 feet away and you can see it's an obvious squirt gun versus 20 feet or 30 feet or 50 feet away, and you cannot tell what type of firearm it is. You don't know the individual. You've had no interaction with this individual, and now all of a sudden they're pointing something at you and screaming something or saying something that would indicate that their intention is to cause you harm.
Yeah, like George has always said, folks, you can't be paranoid, but you got to be proactive, focused, and diligent. I mean, it could be a person just running into a movie theater, interrupting the entire movie, saying he's got a gun or he's some antichrist or whatever. I mean, you just never know when you're in the public anymore, George, what you're walking into, unfortunately, whether it's business or pleasure.
Well, that's where it goes back of being prepared, is what we've been talking about. You don't know, and because you don't know, it's better to be prepared and never need the weapon, be it a firearm or some other personal protective device. Hopefully, you never ever need to use that. I like to say most police officers they serve an entire career and never have to pull that firearm out and use it on the job, but they've got to be prepared to do that, and every day some of them do have to pull it out and use it to defend themselves or another citizen from death or serious bodily harm. So you have to be prepared, and hopefully you never have to use it, but you've got to be prepared.
Speaking of which, when guns change and new ammunition comes in, new rules, new regulations, new ways to operate the guns, do you and BJ and the staff go over that with the entire staff there, or when y'all have your meetings?
Well, we do, but typically how you operate a firearm does not change on that particular firearm, especially the one that's been out for years and years. If there's a new firearm that comes out as we go to stock that firearm and sell it, then obviously we have training to make sure everyone knows how to operate that firearm so you can demonstrate it to a potential customer. They're all basically the same. You're going to get a little differences. Some firearms will have safeties, some don't. Magazine release may be in a slightly different position, but the function of the release and the slide release, those are all the same. It's just a little bit of minor differences on where these particular levers or buttons are. So we need to be familiar with those again so we can demonstrate those to the customer. And
folks listening on radio every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, all you have to do is go to the YouTube search box. On YouTube, type in George McClain, Sports Scene, those words, and you can hear any of the series of interviews George has done over the last several years. George, thank you. Have a wonderful spring to you and your staff, and be safe as always.
Thank you, Greg, and same to you. Take care.
My pleasure. George McClain, owner, general manager, firearms instructor from the Marksman folks. Highly recommend you go there for gun safety. 872-4130, 520 Industrial Park Drive. And Joe Daniel, you learn something every time we have him on our show, whether it's a crazy person in a subway, whether somebody's walking into a movie theater with kids there, or a restaurant like Waffle House. We live in a very, crazy world, and you have to, like my grandmother would say, 2 eyes in front, 2 eyes in the back.
Yeah, you have to constantly be aware of your surroundings. And like George was saying, he's one of my favorite guests that you have. I really love his knowledge and his passion for what he does, and he really is looking to help people. And like he said, the worst thing that you can do is actually use a firearms on somebody. Even though you carry one, even though you're prepared, the worst thing that you can do is actually have to use it. That's the worst scenario to be in, but be prepared.
Right. Like the Boy Scout motto said, Panera, all items 100% clean. They deliver, excellent delivery, catering, take advantage of the rapid pickup option, soups, sandwiches, salads, bagels, bread, smoothies, excellent breakfast sandwiches, excellent desserts as well. Go by and see Brian and the staff. For more, go to PaneraBread.com. Food as it should be. Where is Brian and the staff at? They're in Suffolk and Harborview at 6255 College Drive. Best Panera in town. 483-3670 is the phone number.
What tees you off? Presented by HamptonRoadsOnlineMall.com.
It's now time for What Tees Me Off. Always a lot of fun, folks. All right, Joe Daniel, anything in excess, the Greek saying everything in moderation. There's something to be said about things in moderation.
No, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I've heard also is nobody regrets eating too little. You're eating with your taste buds instead of actually eating until you're just satisfied. And just that feeling of overeating is the absolute worst. And nobody regrets being like, no, I think I'm good. I think I'll save that for later. Nobody regrets that. So I would recommend doing that more often.
Yeah, I had a little fish in the afternoon, then I wanted some hot dogs and fries. They can never end if you wanted to.
And a
folks.
soda.
Yeah, not into excessive jewelry when you see men or women just with tons of chains around their neck.
I don't understand the gold necklace.
I don't like silver or bronze either.
It's just a me thing. I don't know. But seeing a guy with a golden thin necklace, turtleneck and chain, I don't understand it.
And you and I are pretty much the same generation. Come on, really? Double earrings, man? Come on. Seriously, don't try to be like a woman, in my opinion. All right, personalized license plates. Or what's even worse is stickers that say, Johnny and Susie together for 10 years. A month later, Johnny and Susie have broken up.
Yeah, or my son or daughter is an honor student or something like that. It's very popular. Like, I lived in San Diego for about 8 years. Personalized license plates were very rare. Oh, I move over here. I would say nearly like 20% of the vehicles on the road have a personalized license plate, and it just caught me off guard. Like, everybody just loves the license plate, the personalized license plate.
But here's the thing. Your personal life changes every day. Whether it's a relationship or business or pleasure, it changes. So be careful what you stick on your car or on your shirt or what you wear or a tattoo. Yeah. Because tattoos don't come off.
I just got a tattoo, just did the final details of my tattoo, and so far I'm loving it. We'll see in 50 years.
All right, yours truly does not have any tattoos for the record. All right, drama is never good, Joe Daniel, but especially on Mondays and Fridays for some reason.
Yeah, I would say probably Fridays is the worst because you go into the weekend and you're trying to relax and something just tease you off right on Friday and it ruins your whole weekend because you're just stewing in it. So, I don't know. It's a part of letting go, I think, as well.
Yes, of course. Earaches are never fun. Toothaches are never fun. Pollen is never fun. Sinuses are never fun as well. So, it always happens, too. When only a few people reach consensus, but yet they vote for it regardless of what your opinion is. It's that 2 or 3 in that clique out of 11 that reach consensus. Oh, we've got this. What about the other elected officials?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Majority should rule in something like that, not the 2 or 3 out of a group of 10 or 11 or 12 people. I mean, majority should rule. Or if it's a big decision, unanimous decision, I would think.
Very good. That's what teased me off, folks. I want to thank our great guests as well, and of course, it was an honor to throw out the pitch in the Norfolk Tides game on April 30th. A lot of fun as well for the Hampton Roads Sports and Media Hall of Fame. For Joe Daniel and our great guests, at Greg Bick on Twitter, GregBic, every Saturday morning, 10 to 11 on the Lighthouse, 1010 a.m., 100.1 FM, tunein.com, type in WPMH. I'm Greg Bicouvaris. We'll talk to you soon.